Greetings everyone. My name is Kayla Quarles and I am the training coordinator for the IDEA Data and Research Office. This presentation covers the special education data reporting requirements of cycles 2, 4, and 7 for early childhood within the new fiscal year. User guides and data dictionaries are also available for download from the website or from the support tab in MySped. The slide above gives you those URLs that you can follow. From a calendar perspective, Cycle 2, pulled for student enrollment as indicated, is reported for October 1 and due by October 15th of the fiscal year. Cycle 4, personnel reporting and child count, is reported for December 1 and due by December 15th. Note the review period for Cycle 4 during the month of January. Cycle 7 information is submitted by June 15th and available for review during the month of September. Be sure to keep primary disability up to date as they are pulled for every cycle and updated to Trian nightly. Cycle 4 includes all of your special ed employees and all of your active special ed students, which is often referred to as child count. You have until December 15th to enter all of your Cycle 4 data in eSchool prior to the cycle pull. The review period for the data you have submitted is the month of January in the MySped resource application. Remember the linear progression of eSchool, which means that teachers and speech therapists must be entered in staff information before being able to complete the district-defined tab on their individual staff information pages, just the same as all special education employees. Once the district-defined tab is completed, special ed staff will appear in a drop-down menu in order to select the appropriate ones to enter on the early childhood general information screen. Remember that you are entering the person who holds the due process folder, and that if the student is a speech-only student, the speech therapist goes in both fields. School districts should make contract staff inactive in the building tab in staff information, as they are not pulled for Cycle 2. Special ed data can still be entered and will be pulled for Cycle 4, though they are inactive in the building tab. These are the fields that are pulled for employees in Cycle 4. Some of these are explained in greater details in later slides within the presentation. Be sure to check and update the certification status, especially for those that have completed the ALP process and paraprofessionals who have achieved certification. Additionally, contract OTs, PTs, and speech therapists should remain in staff information but made inactive in the building field. We will now look at an employee certification status. If a teacher is working towards certification as a special ed teacher, they have up to 3 years to complete that process, called an ALP. The teacher will be marked A, B, or C depending on where they are in the process. In the license field, the letters ALP are entered along with the license the person is working towards. D is a fully certified teacher or speech therapist. Teachers receive their license from ADE, while SLPs receive their licenses from the Arkansas Board of Examiners of Speech Language Pathologists and Audiologists. E includes all paras that have completed the core module for certification and special ed supervisors, early childhood coordinators, and all special ed administrators, including those with Title Code 2 who possess a license for their title. F includes all contract personnel who are licensed, including SLPs, OTs, PTs, and even special ed teachers, all of who are not employed by the district. G is all of those in E who are not certified or who do not have a license. H would be any of the aides, assistants of contract staff, or anyone not employed by the district who does not hold a license or certification. SLPs and psych examiners have a process coming out of college before they are licensed and considered fully certified. For the SLP, it's called a CFY. They would be coded I, and CFY would be coded into the license field. If you have any questions about what certification status you should enter for an employee, check with your supervisor, also known as your monitor, for correct coding. This chart is also located in the Employee User Guide and Data Dictionary. It is based off of a 40-hour work week. So if your district has a different work week, you will need to do the math accordingly to determine the employee's FTE. Remember that it can never be greater than 1. If an employee has 2 different title codes they work under, such as someone who supervises some of the time but also has some direct instruction time with students, that person's FTE has to be divided accordingly. You also need to be aware of those unusual situations where the work week may be greater than the standard work week in your district or program. Your district may also share a contract person with other districts or programs. Once the cycle is submitted and that person's FTE is compiled, it also cannot be greater than 1. So, in order to accurately gather the FTE of a contract staff person, you'll ask them 2 questions. How many hours a week do you work with children or students? And how many hours a week do you work with children or students in my program? You'll divide the second number by the first, and then you'll have their FTE in your program or district. To qualify for the LEA supervisor reimbursement, you must have one of the following endorsement codes in the endorsement licensure field of the special education module in eSchool. In listing the special education endorsement codes, please make sure that they are separated by periods. All districts are required to report who serves as their LEA supervisor and the FTE in which they serve the district. An LEA supervisor who has the appropriate licensure endorsement is to be coded as O1 title supervisor if the administration endorsement is held with the certification status of E, non-teacher certified. An LEA supervisor who does not have the required endorsement code should also be coded as O1 Title Supervisor Code if the administrator endorsement is held with the certification of F, non-teacher, not certified. Caseload counts are determined based upon what you have entered into each child's screen for their teacher in SLP. Remember that you enter the due process folder holder in the teacher field. Also remember the linear progression of eSchool, so that a person, including contract staff, parents, OTs, and PTs, must first have a record in staff information before you can complete the DDT or the special ed employee module. If a child receives speech services only, the SLP is entered in both the teacher and the therapist field. Note the fields for teacher and speech therapist. Remember too that unless an entry date has been placed in the entry withdrawal dialog box, those students will not pull as a part of your cycle reporting. This is why it is so important that you complete the entry withdrawal link by simply entering an entry date before you address any fields on the school age student screen. Employees can be made inactive in the building and staff registration, but the teacher and speech fields are pulled from the early childhood general information screen, so these fields need to be up to date at all times. Child count is a 1-day snapshot of December 1. Students with an entry date after December 1 will not be included in the count. Temporarily placed students are not a part of the actual count, for they have not been found eligible for IDEA services. Withdraw all students dismissed before December 1. If they receive services on December 1, then the exit is December 2nd. Make sure to use the exit code with EC in the parentheses. Lastly, if they received services on November 30th and was no longer in district on December 1, the exit date is November 30th. Check to make sure your students have the correct placement codes and where services are provided. Speech-only students who receive pull-out therapy, for example, would have an educational placement of A2. Remember that family surveys are due by June 30th. Family surveys collected after June 30th are added to next fiscal year's reporting. Surveys can be submitted online if you prefer not paying for postage. You must request surveys by email containing the information on the screen. Photocopied surveys cannot be scanned and will be returned to the district. Frequently, family surveys are submitted to our office incomplete and out of compliance. To avoid this, please pay careful attention before submitting. Here are some common errors and other things you need to be aware of as you enter your data and review your data for submission. Be aware that when the pool is made for submission, if there are errors in your data, you will be required to correct those errors before the pool can be submitted. If your cycle submission person makes you aware of your errors, then you must correct them prior to submitting. Be sure to inform the cycle submission person that the pool must be rebuilt prior to submission. Be sure to check all Social Security numbers and match them against the Social Security cards to avoid errors. If you have students who did not return for the fiscal year, the withdrawal date needs to be the last day of school term, rather than having an exit date during the school term. Remember, those areas that are commonly contain errors such as birth dates, socials, and referrals, they need to be closed out and have a reason for referrals being completed. If you do not have an SLP, an OT, or a PT who are district employees, then you should have a contract one with the district defined information completed with an FTE of 1 to show that you have such individuals contracted, should the district need their services. Also, be sure that you are using the appropriate exit codes, as all exit codes present in each withdrawal drop-down menu. Finally, joining the eSchool, TAC, or HAC portal may be helpful for following errors and questions, and also other issues submitted by peers who also work on eSchool. Thank you for joining today's presentation. My name is Kayla Quarles, and if you have any questions, I can be reached in the Data and Research Office at 501-916-3219 or by email at kpquarles@ualr.edu. Thank you.